Well, now this is interesting, isn't it? Yesterday I did a video talking about the Antje Trau. Is that how you say it? The actress who played Feyora in Man of Steel. And she put out an image from on her Instagram account when she was working out and getting in shape for the role. And she said, "Hey, look, it's a throwback." What was it, Thursday? She put it out or something. I can't remember. Anyway, so that was a throwback image. And then someone said, "Is this just a throwback image, or is there any chance of you returning to that role?" And she responded, "Working on it." And so it's like, wow, this seemingly came out of nowhere, And well, what does that mean? Would she be a villain they're interested in? And the article was Cosmic Book News, and is suggesting that she could show up in Wonder Woman. She could show up in the Green Lantern series. I don't know if there's going to be a film and that sort of thing. And yeah, but the main thing, the most thing that makes more sense is that she shows up in another Superman movie. Probably seeking revenge against Superman over the death of Zod. So, it pretty much seemed it was done and over with that there would ever be another Superman film with Henry Cavill. And I had held out hope that wouldn't be true, because I thought he makes a good Superman. He just never really got the story for it. Man of Steel is as close as you get for him, and that's that's a freshman superhero story, and that's why everyone complained about it, that he was not that great at it, and the city gets destroyed and all that. It's his first day as Superman. The first thing he does as Superman is defend the world from an alien invasion from his own people, and he made mistakes, and it's not that he meant to, but he was struggling with this. And that ultimately, the idea clearly was that through a trilogy, he would achieve the great Superman character that we all know and love. And so that it makes sense. And it was based in the idea of how do you approach a Superman series grounded in some sense of reality. Obviously, you couldn't go as far as you could with Batman, which is what the Nolan films did, as far as they could, where you could have Batman live in a real world. With Superman, of course, that really can't happen. As far as we know, we don't have any aliens coming here with powers. Outside of that, I couldn't have, but you could place this character in a world with the consequences of powers like that. And that was the point of what happened to Metropolis. It was clear to me there are flaws in Man of Steel, most notably the Jonathan Kent, especially Jonathan Kent's death. It lacks credibility with me. But other than that, it wasn't that bad. The look of it was a bit too dark, desaturated, if you will. I thought a little more brightness could have helped, but for the tone and what was happening in it, it fit. So anyway, after everything that went wrong with Batman versus Superman and, of course, Justice League, we pretty much figured it was over for Henry Cavill as Superman. But no, Henry Cavill, who was silent during the Release the Snyder Cut. By the way, hashtag Release the Snyder Cut. And we kind of wonder if maybe he's mad about that. And after the humiliation of the mustache thing and everything, which wasn't Snyder's fault at all. So it seems like he would want the original version to be seen, all that work. And, but I think he's a bit hurt and irritated that his movie franchise was taken away, and here we get into it. So let's see, he was doing an interview with Men's Health, and so he was asked about Superman, and here he said, I've been quite disconnected from all of this for quite a while. I'm very behind. Not sure what he's referring to. And is he talking about the comics, or is he talking about the business of Hollywood and whatnot? Obviously, it wouldn't be the business of Hollywood. He's actively involved in promoting his Witcher series, and which has been renewed for another season. So he's going to be involved with that for quite some time. But he was asked about the Superman role, and he confirms he's not done with it. He says, the cape is in the closet. It's still mine. And the cape in the closet was one of these things his management responded to the earlier rumors that he was no longer involved with the role, and they said the cape is still in his closet, and we still have a relationship with Warner Brothers and all that, which is the same management because it's Dwayne Johnson's ex-wife, Danny Garcia, I believe her name is, and she represents Henry, and she still represents her ex-husband, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and he's going to be Black Adam. It's been in the works for 10 years. So see, even though there's been some time pass, doesn't mean it's over. And so finally they'll start shooting soon for Black Adam. And he and their friends, they've seen them socializing and what have you. So if he's got Dwayne Johnson in his corner, that might be a stipulation to keep Henry Cavill around and possibly even appear in a Black Adam film. So the quote is, "I've not given up on the road. There's a lot I have to give for Superman yet. A lot of storytelling to do. A lot of real, true depth to the honesty of the character I want to get into. I want to reflect the comic books. That's important to me. There's a lot of justice to be done for Superman. The status is, you'll see. Sort of, we'll see what happens." So, this seems to refer that there's discussion going on. And I don't know if that involves Theora or anything, but it's interesting that this happens, within a couple of days of each other. The actor also reflected on his appearances. Yes, in Man of Steel is a great starting point. If I were to go back, I don't think I'd change anything. Well, I'd change a few things, but ultimately, yeah, it's a good starting point, especially for the narrative they were building, that he wasn't perfect on his first outing, and he didn't quite know what he was going to do. The problem is, this is pretty much almost the state in Batman versus Superman. But as he states here, he didn't have much to say on Batman v Superman. Very much a Batman movie. You see, already I'm thinking he's kind of like, wait a minute, I'm not getting a sequel. I'm going to guest star in a Batman movie, and that's kind of what it was, and that was one of the low points of it. Even though there's a lot about especially the director's cut, which I've said ad nauseum, that I enjoy about it, but it's still a very flawed film, especially when it was trying to force something that couldn't be done, and that's on Warner Brothers, not Mr. Cavill, or certainly not Mr. Snyder. So he says, yeah, I think that Realm of Darkness is great for our Batman movie. And yeah, and that's another problem. The next Superman movie needed to be a little bit brighter from, the dark beginnings of it, because that's Superman, and that's not Batman. And then he was rather candid about Justice League. It didn't work. He doesn't like that movie. And he's probably upset with the whole damn project, especially after he doesn't get a sequel. He has to guest star in a movie. Now he's guest starring in yet another one. They should have done a Man of Steel 2 first. And that could have little snippets and Easter eggs here, laying down a groundwork. And the events of Batman versus Superman could be bolstered by a narrative established there, especially since it's a movie that can't really stand on its own. It's a movie that sets up the universe that they're trying to make here, and that's about it. But you can't. It's sort of doing it ass backwards. They said we were copying the Marvel method. They really weren't. They were doing it backwards, and that doesn't work. It's like you start with Endgame, and you can't do that. So yeah, the article. This is from Bounding into Comics. And they go on about what I just discussed about the rumors that he was out of the Superman role. They were going to switch to a Supergirl film, all that type of stuff. And haven't heard anything about Supergirl for a while now. And I'm not so sure there's supposed to be a Batgirl film. And that went up in smoke. So maybe they're still working on something like that. But for the most part, no. And here they're redoing the Danny Garcia message. And then Warner Brothers said they had no future plans for a Superman project, but they respect Henry Cavill, and they intend to work with him in the future or something along those lines. And so it's interesting for him to just flat out say, I haven't given it up. The rest of it's Men's Health, so he talks about his workout regimen and how he does his best to stay in shape, and there's a video of him working out and all that. And he says, I'm representing important characters. He says, I don't want to be a dumpy Geralt, that's from Witcher, or a fat Superman. Yeah. That's important. So, and he goes on, yeah, I look good in the mirror. And my significant other says, you look great. Okay. I'm making my significant other happy. Yeah, okay. So anyway, maybe there's a discussion for a Superman film. That would be for the best. It's unfortunate that he didn't do the cameo in the Shazam film. That would have been really nice. And instead it was the Shazam stunt double. They just cut the head off. But it would have been nice to have seen that and to make it clear. But the idea of him being used as just a cameo and guest star character that connects the films, he was probably miffed at that. But think about the fans, Henry. But of course, it would have been better to have that. Yes, we're going to do the Superman film, but we kind of want you to do this extra stuff too, and a few scenes here and there, and then we're going to work on that Superman film. But he didn't have that, and so maybe that was it. There was rumors that he's difficult to work with, and Warner Brothers is mad at him, especially since he pulled this business that he didn't want to do the Shazam scene, and apparently didn't have to, and then went off to do this Witcher stuff. And, I can move on. And other people said the Supergirl movie was a means by which a play by Warner to say, well, we don't need you, and all that stuff. Meanwhile, J.J. Abrams and his bad robot company signed a deal with Warner Media, and they're supposed to produce programs. And the rumor is he wants to do a Superman film and Green Lantern. Now, Green Lantern's already been announced to be a TV series on HBO Max, so I don't know if this is the rumor. Now, J.J. Abrams' involvement might be for a film, and there would be yet another separate entity. DC seems to be embracing their multiverse, I don't know, what do you call it? Aesthetic? No. A platform, I guess. I don't know. But DC Comics has always embraced the multiverse until they tried to kill it in the 80s with Crisis on Infinite Earth, which was a great series, but at the same time, the damage it did was pretty bad. And to this day, DC Comics suffers from that. It was easier just to maintain that, yes, there's alternate universes, and yes, you could have comic book series based in that with different versions of the characters, and it wasn't that big of a deal. As for the movies and stuff, this will be quite different because they tried to avoid that. They wouldn't let Deathstroke be an Arrow for a while because they wanted him in these movies, which never came to fruition except for a brief snippet at the end of Justice League and stuff like that. But at the same time, you can say, well, you can have a Deathstroke. You can have a Deathstroke in Arrow. You can have a Deathstroke in Titans. And you can have a Deathstroke in the movies. It doesn't really matter. You have a Flash TV series on CW. You had a Flash in Justice League. And brief snippets in Suicide Squad and Batman vs Superman, stuff like that. And the world didn't come to an end. So it's possible to do this. It's just the idea of being, well, why should I watch this Superman and not and the other one when I don't have time for all or whatever. But this Superman will do this and this one will do that. It can get annoying. But television is its place, and the movies are theirs. And in future, when it's all streaming, I suppose it won't matter. They'll be pretty much well merged. But the idea of doing a couple of more Superman films with Henry Cavill, and you can only go so far with these. Eventually, you age out of the role. But right now, you can't possibly say he's aged out of it at this point. And the idea that, he couldn't fit with a Robert Pattinson because he's 3 years older than Robert Pattinson. I mean, that's just stupid. So, who knows? Maybe that's what they're doing. They're going to embrace that and try to make something with that, and the DCU will keep going. The DCU is still existing because of Wonder Woman and Aquaman. So that puts it, had those movies bombed, it's done. That's it. And then we'd be waiting for Matt Reeves' Batman and J.J. Abrams and see what they do. But after what J.J. Abrams ultimately did to Star Trek and Star Wars, jeez, Is the third strike he's going to make a winner and get a home run out of DC? I don't know. So right now it's looking like quite the dark cloud. So anyway, thank you for watching and listening. Say, why not like and subscribe and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my many stores that have plenty of goodies for you.